Look around the room you're sitting in right now. Pick any object that is not black. Your phone case, a coffee mug, a pillow. You just found evidence that all ravens are black, and you did not do anything wrong. That is what makes this dangerous. Here is something you already believe even if you have never said it out loud. If you want to prove that all ravens are black, you go find ravens. You check their color. Every block raven you find pushes you a little closer to confidence. 100 block ravens gives you strong evidence. 1,000 gives you even stronger evidence. You are building a case, one bird at a time. But there is a second path to the same conclusion, one that does not require you to see a single raven. And once you understand it, you cannot unlearn it. That belief you have, that evidence for all ravens are black has to involve ravens, feels so obvious it barely seems worth questioning. Of course evidence about ravens involves ravens. What else would it involve? This is where it falls apart. In the 1940s, a philosopher named Carl Hempel was studying something deceptively basic. What does it mean for a piece of evidence to support a hypothesis? He started with a principle so simple it almost sounds like a definition. If your hypothesis is all ravens are black, then finding a black raven confirms that hypothesis. It does not prove it, it confirms it. It adds a small weight to the scale. This is called instance confirmation, and if you reject it, you basically reject how science gathers evidence at all. Then Hempel added a second principle. If two statements say exactly the same thing about the world, if one cannot be true while the other is false, then anything that confirms one of them automatically confirms the other. This is the equivalence condition, and it's hard to argue with. If two sentences are identical in meaning, evidence cannot tell them apart. Now here's where the ground shifts. All ravens are black has a logical twin, a contrapositive. It's an ugly sentence, but it says the exact same thing. Everything that is not black is not a raven. Pause on that. Those two sentences rule out the exact same possibility, a raven that is not black. There is no world where one is true and the other is false. They are the same claim wearing different clothes. And that means anything that confirms one of them has to confirm the other. No exceptions. So now you're holding three ideas, and each one is obviously true. 1. Finding a black raven confirms all ravens are black. 2. Equivalent statements are confirmed by the same evidence. 3. All ravens are black and all non-black things are non-ravens are logically identical. Here's where your thinking broke. You assumed that evidence has to be about the thing it supports, that confirmation is topic-specific, raven evidence for raven claims, chair evidence for chair claims. But logic doesn't have a topic filter. Logic doesn't know what a raven is. Logic only sees structure. And structurally, a green apple that is not a raven is an instance of a non-black thing being a non-raven, which confirms that all non-black things are non-ravens, which is the claim that all ravens are black. Remember the object you picked at the start, the one that was not black? It just became evidence, right there in your hand, real, logically valid evidence that all ravens are black. You didn't leave your room, you never saw a bird, and you just did ornithology. And it gets worse. This does not stop at ravens. Take any universal claim. All swans are white. A red car confirms it. All electrons are negatively charged. Your coffee mug confirms it. The principle doesn't care about the content of the hypothesis. It applies to every universal statement ever made, which means right now, the objects around you are simultaneously confirming an infinite number of hypotheses you've never even heard of. Take a breath. The logic has not broken. You have just followed it further than it's usually taken. But the real question is not whether this is logically valid, it's whether logic alone is enough to tell us what counts as evidence. And the answer to that question threatens something much bigger than ravens. Think about what happens if you reject any of the three steps. If you reject instance confirmation, you're saying that finding a black raven does not support all ravens are black. That dismantles empirical science. If you reject the equivalence condition, you're saying two identical statements can be confirmed by different evidence, which is a contradiction. If you reject the logical equivalence, you're denying basic propositional logic. Every exit is locked. Every escape hatch costs you something fundamental. And here's what no one talks about. The paradox is not that the conclusion is wrong, it's that you might have to accept it. Some of the sharpest minds in philosophy of science, Bayesian confirmation theorists, looked at this and said, yes, a green apple really does confirm that all ravens are black. It just confirms it by an astronomically small amount. So small it's practically invisible, but not zero, never zero. The evidence is real, it's just almost nothing. That's not a cop-out. That's the answer a significant chunk of modern epistemology has settled on. The logic was right all along. Your intuition about what counts was the thing that was calibrated wrong. Which raises a deeper question. If your intuitions about something as basic as what counts as evidence can be this wrong, what else are you wrong about? There's no consensus. 80 years later, philosophers are still arguing, but the main responses fall into three camps. The first camp bites the bullet. Bayesians accept that a green apple confirms all ravens are black, but the degree of confirmation is so vanishingly small that it explains why it feels irrelevant. The math works out. There are so many more non-black things in the universe than there are ravens that each one contributes almost nothing. Your intuition was not wrong that it seems trivial. It was wrong that trivial means zero. The second camp says instance confirmation needs surgery. Maybe not every instance equally confirms the hypothesis. Maybe you need targeted evidence, evidence you specifically went looking for, not evidence you tripped over. A black raven you sought out confirms, a green apple you happened to glance at does not. This saves your intuition but complicates the logic. The third camp questions whether we have the right framework. Maybe the problem is not the logic or the intuition. Maybe the concept of evidence itself is messier than anyone wanted to admit. Maybe confirmation can't be captured in a clean set of universal rules. None of these is the winner. Each one saves something. Each one costs something. Tomorrow morning, you're going to pour your coffee into a white mug, and for half a second, maybe less, you're going to think about ravens. Not because you want to, because you now know that mug is doing something. It's a tiny, almost worthless piece of evidence that every raven on Earth is black. You can't unfeel that. And every non-black object you see for the rest of the day will do the same thing. You didn't learn a paradox. You caught a virus. And the next time someone asks you what evidence is, you won't have an answer.